My name is Lillian Wade. I'm 33 years old, and for the past 2 months, I've had the same dream every single night. A dream so consistent and vivid it feels more like a memory, one that doesn't belong to me, yet somehow knows me better than I know myself. In the dream, I'm standing on the edge of a tree-lined road facing a crumbling Victorian style house, pale blue with rusting gates and a crooked weather vane that spins even when the wind is still. There's always a soft fog curling round the porch, and always a single dim light glowing in the attic window, like someone is waiting up there. I've never been inside the house. In the dream, I just stand there staring at it, like I used to live there, or maybe like something inside used to live in me. I never gave it much thought until last week when I was helping my cousin plan a trip through Vermont. She handed me an old highway map, and while tracing back roads with a highlighter, my stomach dropped. The house was on the map, same placement, same crooked gate, even the name written beneath it, Wade Property. Abandoned. My blood turned to ice. I hadn't told anyone about the dream. How could a house I've never been to, one I only see in my sleep, be real and carry my last name? I showed up there 3 nights ago. I had to see it with my own eyes. And what I found wasn't just a broken down building, it was a place that knew me before I was born. If you're watching this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with anyone who dreams of places they've never been, because this story, this truth, is going to unfold into something I'm not sure I'll survive remembering. The second I crossed the rusted threshold of the house, the world felt wrong, not haunted, not cold, but familiar in a way that terrified me more than any ghost could. Every creak of the floorboards sounded rehearsed, every shadow knew exactly where to fall, and the air smelled faintly of lavender, like the perfume my grandmother used to wear, except I never told anyone and she died before I turned 5. I walked through the front hall slowly, my boots crunching over old leaves that had slipped through the broken windows, and when I passed the staircase, I noticed something stuck behind the wood banister, a photograph, yellowed and half-burned, showing a young girl who looked exactly like me. Same eyes, same dimple on the left cheek, standing in what looked like this very house, except clean, warm, alive. I tore it free, heart pounding, and followed the hallway into a back sitting room where more photographs waited on a mantle, all of me, each differently, like a timeline no one told me I lived. One as a baby in a white bonnet, one as a teenager in a blue dress I've never worn, one in the attic window looking down with hollow eyes. Panic surged through me, as some force pushed me deeper, pulling me up the winding stairs where the woods seemed to sigh under my weight, like the house recognized me, welcomed me back. And when I reached the attic door, I saw something carved deep into the frame with what looked like fingernails. Lillian stays. My hand trembled as I pushed it open, and inside, beneath layers of dust and torn wallpaper, was a mirror, tall, cracked and fogged, and in its reflection, I wasn't alone. Yes, I stepped into the attic. The air thickened like syrup, slow and suffocating, as though every breath I took was filtered through someone else's lung. The mirror at the far end of the room stood tall and crooked, its frame warped from time and heat, and its surface rippled as if it were breathing. I approached slowly, heart crashing in my chest, and when I looked into it, I saw myself, but not the self I knew. The woman staring back wore the same face, but older, hardened eyes sunken with knowledge I didn't want, her skin slightly paler, lips pressed in a way I'd never held them. And when I raised my hand, she didn't. I froze, my arm midair, as the reflection stood perfectly still, studying me like I was the one behind the glass. And then, with airy calm, she smiled, not wide, not cruel, just enough to say, I've been waiting. Behind her, the attic in the reflection was different. Furnished, alive, a crib in the corner, a record player spinning, and photos hung neatly on the walls, all photos of me at ages that don't exist in my memory. This was your life, she said, without moving her lips, her voice inside my head like a distant echo. Before you were moved, I staggered back, and the attic around me flickered. For half a second, I stood in her version of the room, could smell old perfume and hear a lullaby playing softly in the background. And then it was gone, and I was back in the dust and decay, heart racing, hands trembling. I ran to the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it, and in the mirror, my other self turned to the side and whispered to someone I couldn't see, she's starting To remember the house didn't just appear in my dreams, it came from them, and now I wasn't sure if I ever really left it. Don't know what compelled me to stay in the attic. Maybe fear rooted me there. Or maybe something deeper, like a strange gravitational pull, as if the house itself had been holding its breath for me to finally arrive. But as I stood trembling in the silence after the mirror spoke through my reflection, I noticed a faint creak beneath my feet, a hollow note beneath the boards that didn't match the others, and when I knelt down and pried at the edge with a rusted nail I found on a windowsill, the plank gave way to reveal a hidden compartment. Inside it was a single object wrapped in what looked like the sleeve of a child's dress. Soft blue gingham stained at the edges, and tucked within it, aged and brittle, was a small leather-bound diary, warped from time, but unmistakably familiar. The way the L curved in the name embossed on the front, the faint ink bleed that happens when I write too quickly, even the way certain letters looped. It was my handwriting, my journal style, but dated July 9, 1970, to 14 years before I was born. I opened it with shaking hands and flipped through the pages, each entry more horrifying than the last. Descriptions of nightmares. I've only recently started having detailed sketches of rooms in the house I'd never been inside before yesterday, and constant references to the shadow that wears my face, a phrase that sent a chill so deep into my bones I nearly dropped the book. The final page was torn, but the last full sentence read, "If she finds me again, I'll forget everything and she'll wear my name instead." That was the moment I stopped believing this was coincidence or haunting or even madness. This was a cycle, a ritual, and I was the placeholder. I wasn't dreaming about the house because I was haunted. I was being recalled like an object that had been misplaced. And now, remember, at the moment I read that final sentence in the diary, I knew what I had to do: destroy it, erase whatever thread was connecting me to this place, this life that wasn't mine. Because even though the entries were written in my own handwriting, every word felt like a prison. I hadn't realized I was locked inside. I ran down the stairs with the diary clutched to my chest like it might bite me, made my way out to the overgrown yard behind the house, where I found a rusted fire pit and piled dead branches on top like kindling. The whole time the sky grew darker, even though it was only mid-afternoon, and a low thudding sound like a heartbeat began to pulse in my ears. I struck a match and dropped it into the pit. The flame caught quickly, and with shaking hands I held the diary over the growing fire. But just as I was about to let it go, the air around me shifted, thickened, like the house had inhaled and was holding its breath. And then the walls began to bleed. Thick black liquid oozed from the seams between boards, from cracks in the windows, from beneath the porch. It wasn't water or paint, it was warm, and it smelled like rust and smoke and earth that had never seen sunlight. The flame flickered violently, as if being pulled away from the diary. And then the moment I loosened my grip, the book was ripped from my hands by wind that didn't exist, flung backward through the open door, where it landed on the hallway table, completely untouched by the fire. I chased it inside, but the front door slammed shut behind me, and every light bulb in the house blew out at once, plunging me into darkness except for the attic, where the mirror still glowed faintly. And in it my reflection stood, holding the diary, smiling, whispering, "You don't burn what you were born from." The house wasn't just keeping me here, it was reclaiming me. I don't remember unlocking the front door. Maybe it never was locked to begin with, or maybe the house simply let me go once it was done showing me who I really was. But after what felt like hours of darkness, whispers, and flickering images of myself in the mirror doing things I hadn't yet done, the door creaked open and I ran, gasping, stumbling through the weeds and fog and into the gravel road where I'd parked my car. Only the car was gone. At first I thought I was disoriented, but the longer I looked around, the more I realized something was off. The trees were taller, older, the road was narrower and unpaved, and when I followed it back toward what should have been the highway, I emerged into a version of the town that looked like it had been frozen in time. The gas station was gone, replaced with a rusted pump and broken signage. The local diner had turned into a boarded-up general store, and the street signs were faded, the names slightly different, like a memory of the town rather than the town itself. I walked for hours calling for help, But no one came, not even animals stirred in the trees until I spotted a figure standing near a mailbox at the end of a long gravel drive. I ran to them waving desperate, but as I got closer my steps slowed, because she turned and I saw my own face looking back at me dressed in 1970's clothes holding a newspaper with my name in the obituary column, Lillian Wade 33 laid to rest. After tragic disappearance. She didn't speak, just handed me the paper, then slowly faded into the fog like she'd never been real. That's when I saw the name of the street on the post. Gray Halla wrote a name that's never existed on any map. The house didn't trap me, it rewrote the world around me, and now I'm walking through a town that remembers a version of me I've never been. But I am slowly becoming. Don't know what made me keep walking. Maybe the silence had infected me, maybe the fog had thickened inside my mind as much as it had outside. But something led me to the edge of the woods, where a forgotten cemetery sat, in the middle of overgrown weeds and crooked stone angels with their faces half erased by time. I moved slowly, my legs trembling with each step, until I found it. My name carved in stone, aged and mossy. Over Lillian Wade, born 1990, died. No death year, just a dash that seemed to stretch deeper than the granite itself. I stood there staring at it, my throat dry, heart hammering so loud it hurt. When I heard it, a faint rhythmic sound like breathing coming from under the sill, steady and soft, as if someone was asleep down there and dreaming through my skin. I dropped to my knees, pressed my ear to the earth, and the sound grew louder. And then came a voice, my voice, whispering through the dirt. Don't leave again. She'll take it back. I scrambled up, stumbled back, but behind me stood the mirror, not a frame now, but an open doorway standing upright in the middle of the cemetery, with fog pouring through it, and in T's reflection was me dressed in the old clothes, barefoot, eyes empty, standing over the grave with a shovel. One of us has to stay, she said, stepping through the glass, dragging the metal blade across the ground. You remembered too much. I turned to run, but the cemetery had shifted. The pots twisted, the tombstones wrong, like the dream had bled into waking life completely, and every direction led me back to her, to me, to the house, to the grave. I dropped to the ground, screaming, covering my ears, but the breath beneath the sill never stopped, and I finally understood. I wasn't Lillian visiting this place, I was the version they'd forgotten to bury properly, called back to finish the ritual. And now that I remembered, the house had what it needed, a name, a body, a soul. One of us walks out of here, and the other keeps breathing underground. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire story. If you made it this far, I truly want to know what part gave you chills the most. Was it the moment Lillian saw her reflection smile without her, or the breathing beneath her own grave? Let me know in the comments what you liked the most about this story, the twist, the mystery, the slow unraveling. I read every word, and forget to subscribe to the channel for more original horror stories like this one. Like this video, it gave you goosebumps. Share it with someone who dreams of places they've never been, and always remember, if a house keeps showing up in your dreams, it might be real and it might be yours. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.